Susan here. Guess what we have today? I have an interview coming up with a famous artist, and that's what's next. Okay, so here I am with, I'm going to say that she is an artist and a designer and an activist, Margaret Juul. And I am so happy that she's able to do this interview with me because I wanted to do this for a while.
Yeah.
I wanted to do this for a while. I connected, like I said, on a very deep level when I first met you, and it's been on my mind ever since. And you know, why am I bringing an artist to you guys? Why am I bringing an artist? Because it all encompasses the same. All roads leads to fashion. That's how I'm going to premise this interview, because I want you to understand that everything that happens in life or in society or whatever leads to fashion. It'll trickle down eventually to fashion, and her gorgeous artwork has been everywhere, in museums, in hospitals, in homes, and also on garments, you know, because it's translating to fabrics and then making it into garments. So I don't want to get too ahead of myself, guys, so let's start this interview and let's introduce Margaret Juul and I want you to kind of explain a little bit first, a little bit about yourself, so I don't have the wrong premise to lead on to.
Well, I've always been one of those really inquisitive people. I was the little girl that spent hours looking at the clouds and collecting leaves and rocks, and I'm always curious about everything creative and nature and how things are connected.
How young?
As far as I can remember, yeah.
Right?
I always had a sketchbook as a kid. I was always drawing. I was always copying things.
Okay.
Copying directly off of books. That's how I started.
That's usually how they train you as an artist to learn how to paint and whatever. They make you
you follow the masters. Yeah, you copy the masters.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Which you really don't get into that until you're at the college level.
Right.
But I was always creative. I always knew I was an artist. I was going to be an artist.
Interesting.
Hell or high water, I was going to be an artist.
Okay.
All the women in my family, my mother's side of the family, they're all incredibly creative women, but they were born at a period where they had other obligations. They married and had children, and that ended. You know? So I always felt like I had the weight of all the women on my back, all these creative women that wanted to excel and express themselves, but couldn't.
Right.
So I feel like I'm in a lot of ways I'm doing it all for them as well. You know?
You had to succeed because of it.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. For so many reasons, I really needed to succeed.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's such a difficult path, and I was told my whole life that you know how difficult it was, and I was told I wasn't going to succeed, and I just had to prove everybody wrong.
Wow. So, and like you were the first or the only one in your family.
The only female in my family to go to college.
You had this inner drive that was so strong that it motivated you to get into other levels. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves because you talk about the business part of it and how successful, and you're also kind of writing a book about this as well, which is kind of exciting. So I don't want to get ahead of myself with that. So I want to go step by step. Guys, I wanted to talk about how it's relevant, in fashion. Everything I'm going to say today will be, I'm going to try to tag back to the relevance of design, okay? And we were having this discussion before that it was actually on, that art and design is one. Not everybody believes this theory, guys. Not everybody believes this theory. I believe it. This is the way I was trained. This is the way I look at things. And I'm so pleased because Margaret's the same way.
I do feel the same way.
You look at things as an art form.
I do.
All of it.
Everything.
All of it.
All of it.
Yeah. Including when it gets to the fabric, and including when it gets to the interior and the chairs and whatever. It's all art.
It is. And inspiration is everywhere. If you're not inspired, there's something wrong. You're not looking at the world clearly, It's funny because you think you only can get inspired if you are an artist or you're a designer, but that's not true. Everybody can get motivated. Everybody can get inspired. Exactly.
Let's just jump into the importance of art college.
Okay.
Like today. Let's talk about today, and then we can back up. How important do you think it is to go to a university to study art?
Well, for me, I didn't want to go to university because I thought that was an extension of high school.
Okay.
But in high school, there was a specialty program of graphic art that you would go to another campus, and it was 2 hours a day, and you were with a select group of children that were creative.
Okay.
And you just got to.
And you were in high school?
I was in high school.
Okay.
So that was 3 years, and you were just introduced to many things that you weren't introduced to anywhere else. Okay. So I felt art school would be an extension of that. I didn't want to go to university. If you feel like that's your calling,
right,
go for it. You know.
Right.
But I wanted to go to a private art school where I was surrounded by super creative, motivated people.
And where did you go?
Columbia College in Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah, they had a fine art department, a film department, and then a performing arts. See, before you even get accepted art school, you have to have a strong portfolio. You already know how to draw or sculpt or paint or whatever when you get in. Okay. So they basically, for instance, there's nothing that's going to help you more than walking into a room and being with all these creative people, and there's a new model in the middle of the room, and you have to spend this whole semester. It brings you to a different level. It brings your mind.
It does.
It brings your mind. You know, when I went to.
How old were you when you saw your first nude model? Because I was like
19.
I was like 16.
I was 19.
I was in high school, and
they didn't do that in high school.
I went to the college nearby.
Okay.
So I was living in St. Pete, so I went to St. Pete High to take, Psychology 1, just to get that out of the way, right? And then, and that was interesting. I remember
it was interesting.
When I got to that part, I would just like scribble.
Yeah, shyness is out the window at that point.
But that is when it did sort of change, and you know what I mean. When you start, when
your
you
mind
see the new
opens.
mind, your mind not only does your mind open, but then it's serious. You become
serious.
You grow up. You grow up.
You do.
Because then you're seeing, okay, this is what I'm doing. This is serious. This is not a game.
Right.
I have to understand the body parts and all the muscles. And
and that goes for fashion too. Structure is very important.
Right. So I did life drawing before I actually did illustration.
Right.
Where they would bring dressed models. Posing on tables, and then we had to draw those very quickly. But you can't avoid that.
No.
So, but what else did it open up when you went into art college? I mean,
well, my freshman year was a fashion design, fashion illustration.
You were
major.
saying that. I was wondering how that happened.
Models and clothing and drapering and
so
stuff
you
like
did that.
I did. Oh yeah, I was a pretty good fashion illustrator, but I didn't really see money into it because at that point, computers were starting to kick in.
Okay.
And you saw more photography than fashion illustration.
Interesting.
I mean, I was a Vogue addict since I was a little kid, you know, and you could see how it started to change. And I knew there wasn't a lot of money into it, so. And my favorite thing in the world was painting, so that's why I decided to switch over.
So you were sort of, in the back of your mind, really always into interior design then?
Yeah, I always had this aesthetic in my head. I have been able to put things together in a cohesive manner to make everything look nice.
Okay.
Funny thing, so after art school, I had a couple of graphic arts jobs, and then I went to work I actually went to a temp agency because I thought I got to get a job where I'm making more money.
Right.
So I went to a temp agency. I scored high in math. The one good thing my father taught me was business math.
Wow.
High school, college, take business math, and it really worked in my favor throughout my whole adult life.
Right.
So I scored high. I wound up working in the accounting department of an environmental remediation company. They did toxic waste cleanup and oil spills and all kinds of environmental things, water cleanup, things like that. Yeah. So I learned a lot about the environment, and it got me into being an activist early on.
Okay.
They were bought out, and I took a job as a national sales coordinator for a publishing company.
Okay.
And this is where interior design comes in. I was very frustrated. I mean, I always was painting. During this period, I was always painting, and promoting myself, and working with galleries and things like that.
Sure.
But it wasn't enough to make a living.
Right.
So I was really good friends with the writers and the people that worked in the art department for this publishing house, because I was working with salespeople, and they're not creative people.
Right.
So I was always hanging out with the writers and everything. And one of the writers says to me, Margaret, let's take an hour for lunch tomorrow. I'm going to take you somewhere. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
You know. So we went to the opening of the first macaroni grill in Florida. It was in Brandon.
Okay.
So this was 1996, early 1997.
Okay.
And he sat me at the table with the interior designers and the architect. And he was interviewing them while I was sitting there eating and listening. And I was like, I went home to my husband that evening and I said, I'm quitting this job during my 2 weeks and I'm going back to school for interior design.
Wow.
It was like, this was me, this is what I needed to do.
Right.
Yeah, at the time,
Okay.
it was still incredibly creative.
Right.
I was still using all my skills.
Right. Right.
And
But it
was
is much
very
more technical. It's much more
yes,
technical.
completely. It was
Yeah.
at the time there was no AutoCAD. We did construction drawings
Everything
by hand.
Right, little teeny.
Yeah, we had to have
Wow.
perfect handwriting, line weights, measuring. I mean, everything was precise. So I learned how to draw from the ground up.
Okay.
And then of course it ties in textile design,
Right.
color, and as I was going along, I could incorporate art from other artists and from auction houses, and
Because you put that into your...
I included that in my
Okay.
package. Yeah.
Okay.
So I worked in residential design,
Okay.
moved on to commercial and healthcare. And healthcare was the thing that really was rewarding for me, healthcare design.
Oh, so that's how you got your designs into the museums and into the hospitals, because you already
Well,
had
the
that
funny thing
connection?
is, well,
or-
the funny thing is,
okay.
the first interior design firm I worked for closed abruptly. She had financial issues. We didn't know. Went into work one day and it was locked. So I.
Oh God, everybody has one of those experiences too, right?
It was locked up. It was not fun. So I took a job as a buyer and a production manager for a print manufacturing company.
Okay.
So my job was selecting, and this was a national company, so my job was selecting imagery
Okay.
for, say, Macy's on the California, New York, Florida, so every demographic was different. So it was-
Of course.
Yeah, so
of
I
course,
was,
when you're buying.
right,
That's
so I'm not
right.
going to send I'm not going to send images of mountains to Miami, you know,
Right.
something like that. So
Right.
it was my job to find the correct images per location
Sure.
for different buyers throughout the country, different companies.
Okay.
And I was looking for art and artists, recruiting artists, going through portfolios.
Sure.
And I found there was one thing that people were looking for that was not out there.
Okay.
And it was a more contemporary coastal imagery, not shells, not palm trees, but more abstract.
Abstract.
Yeah.
Right.
But done well, more
Okay.
sophisticated.
Okay.
Not just throwing paint on and sea tones and that's it.
Right.
But, you know, cohesive, attractive art, right?
Right.
That Macy's would buy or whatever.
It had a
and
wider appeal.
It had a wider appeal,
Right.
so I showed it to a couple of the buyers, and they're like, "This is really, yeah, I can go with this." So that started that wheel turning
in your head.
in my head.
Right.
Yeah. So it took a couple more years
Okay.
that I worked for that particular company, and I went back into interior design because I really did miss it. I really, really missed it.
Wow.
And I did that for another 11, 12 years.
Okay.
Yeah. And in the meantime, I was still building up my portfolio. I was still showing in galleries. I was trying out different methods and techniques and medium. Yeah.
Okay.
And thankfully, I've had a website since 1995. So at art.com, which everybody knows who art.com is now, when they were looking for artists, initially, I was one of the artists that was in the few thousand that they selected worldwide. I was one of those artists.
Awesome.
So that brought a much wider audience.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
my attention.
Okay, so you dabbled, you did the art, you did the architecture, you did the interior design, and so how did it trickle into, you know, where you started to do, how you went to Art Basel and you started doing homes and personal homes, and then you also had your own business for a while?
I've had my
How did
business since 1995, yeah.
Okay.
Even though I worked for other companies, I still have my own LLC.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did the same thing.
Yeah.
I was always working to, you know, to pay the bills.
Yeah, I
and
mean, I
then
knew
to
what the
do-
goal, the long-term goal was. It was just that I
Right.
didn't know how long it was going to take.
Right.
You know, and that's
Right.
the thing that when I talk to young people in college or high school,
Right.
graduating college, art school, art students,
Yeah.
you know, I'm like, you got to think long-term here. You have to be serious. You have to be 100%, 1,000% committed.
Tunnel vision.
You really do.
Yeah.
You know, I've been
Yeah.
told, you know, I've been selfish because I've had that tunnel vision.
Yeah.
But it's without it, I mean, I would have given up 10 times over.
Right. I remember my cousin called me driven, and I thought that was a positive word.
Yeah.
I thought it was like, oh,
you didn't know they were insulting you, right?
I was like, yeah, I'm driven, and then I realized, I was really driven.
That's me too. It's
driven to the point of health issues. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Everything I did sort of kind of went back to that road. It could be an unrelated job, and somehow it just came back to that road.
Right.
And
talking about road.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same thing here.
And everything you do and everything you take, and even things that you think are unrelated. I tell people all the time, you could be a freelancer. You could work for other people and pay the bills, cover your bases,
right,
and do your own art,
right,
do your own design. You still go in your path, right, where you want to be eventually.
Right now we're in a freelance society.
Right. Art, design, interior design, was your passion. And you did some major showings. You showed in Art Basel.
I did in Miami.
And that opened up.
My first after art.com, I got a letter from the director of the Iraq Museum in Baghdad.
Okay.
And he found my work on art.com, and he was doing an international poster exhibition at the museum.
Okay.
And he wanted to find artists from particular countries. And at the time in the United States, we went through hurricane after hurricane.
Right.
And of course in Baghdad there's no such thing, and they have a lack of water, and it's very dry. Yeah. And my colors, which were blues and grays and C-tones, kind of coordinated with the Byzantine art that they had in the gallery already. So they selected one of my pieces, and it was only supposed to be there for 6 months, but it was there for 2 years.
Okay.
And it was closed often because they had bomb threats and everything. But I had a lot of men in the military in particular, especially in Britain, would contact me and say they saw my work there. And I had a little girl who was amazing. She contacted me from England, and she wanted to do a book report because her father brought back a poster of the piece that he saw at the museum. Wow. It was amazing. It was an amazing experience. That opened the door pretty much to everything. So that was 2008 to 11.
And just to mention though, Art Basel is huge.
Art Basel is huge, yeah.
And not only is it huge, but it then brings all these other countries in person, in a location that is like none other. Right. And I watched it grow because I lived in Miami for 20 years, and I watched Art Basel grow to this mediocre thing to this international worldwide event that happens now. You can't even touch it now. You can't even get in basically like you used to be able to get in. Your artwork got into colleges and museums and also into hospitals. And was this the platform that did that?
It just it just found itself, I think, because I had people. Thankfully, beginning in 2008, people started wanting to represent me. Okay. So they're the ones that marketed my work and presented it to different other companies, other interior designers. So basically, instead of being the interior designer at that point, I was supplying to interior designers and art consultants. I already knew the back end of the business, so if if he or she had something that they needed, I could always accommodate it. Right. If they want to give me a budget, I can meet that budget. Right. If they had a specific image in mind, I would give sketches, and I would work with the client. And so I knew starting from early on. Right. So that's where the interesting thing is we're talking about.
That's where the business end of it ends.
Because if you're going to be an artist, you're going to be an artist regardless. You're going to grow. If you have that passion, you're going to exceed. Right. But But it's not going to happen if you don't know the business end of it. Right. In this day and age, that's just the way it is.
I kind of want to jump there, but in order to jump there, Photoshop and Illustrator. You said, did you know those? Did you learn those skills?
No, those things didn't exist. Didn't exist. I mean, we had a little black and white basic Mac when I was in graphic design. Wow. And then when I went back to school for interior design, the CAD wasn't even available. It wasn't even a thing.
Wow. Yeah, they didn't teach
but there were computers, but those programs didn't exist to the general public.
Right. So how did you learn that?
Was that self-taught. Self-taught. All artists are self-taught, and that's.
But Illustrator and Photoshop is it's complicated.
Yeah. So you have to. If I didn't have that graphic design mindset,
background, of course.
Yeah.
Right.
It probably would have been a lot more difficult.
I really am a stickler. I understand that history and how you developed and what happened in your life really plays a huge part, especially especially if you're an artist.
Right.
So I maybe we should dabble a little bit on that, and then talk about business. That you had certain events that happened that maybe triggered your whole coastal.
Well, the interesting thing, I didn't realize it. I mean, I just turned 50, and I just realized.
You're still young.
Yeah, I realized piecing it all together.
Yeah.
Why I'm where I am and what I'm doing.
Okay.
When I was a little child, I was 4 or 5 years old. And I grew up in New York, and we would go to Miami.
Okay.
And I was pulled down by riptide, and I don't remember much of what happened after that.
Wow.
But I do remember the last thing I saw was the light coming through the waves. I was looking up and the light coming through the waves.
Wow.
And that's always stuck with me.
That's pretty cool.
It's a blessing and a curse, but I have a photographic memory. So I'll never forget a face, an image, a color, but
I do, yeah.
But that image is ingrained in my head. So 20 years later, I'm looking for coastal images, and I pulled on that idea.
And you couldn't find. And
no, I couldn't find it. I pulled on that idea.
Okay.
And not only is it coastal, but people find it healing and inspirational, and a lot of people just find comfort in that type of imagery.
Right.
So that kind of pulled all that together. And then when I worked for the environmental corporation, they introduced me to water cleanup and water pollution and things like that.
So it hit you.
So that hit me hard.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, what can I do with this? How can I use this for the good, the benefit of mankind in a certain way? Okay. Not just creatively, but as an activist or an environmentalist. So I have teamed up with like Oceana, Marine Educators Association, Water Watch, corporation like that, and I donate a couple pieces a year to them, and I promote their message. So
that's awesome. But your work in general is that way, so it's healing. So you're touching everybody with that, and with this healing, with the colors, the imagery.
I got people in tears looking at my work.
I've had people,
and I've had also people get seasick.
Interesting.
Yeah, because my work has like a certain vibration. I think it's just the way my painting professor, who's a department head at Columbia College, she took me under her wing, and her thing was emotion. If you don't have emotion on the canvas, it's kind of dead. And that could go with anything. With
that's photography. That's
composition.
And that's illustration, and that's fashion design.
It's so true.
There's a difference between an illustrator with an illustration that's stagnant and dead, or has movement. Very important.
So movement that's my ultimate goal in anything I do.
That's very hard to do.
And it is very hard to do.
That's when you know you've matured as an artist.
And it took me a long time to get there.
Yeah.
So the practice makes perfect, I guess.
Right. So how does this fast forward? I mean, we go back to the very beginning of our interview when you said I had to succeed.
Right.
I had no choice. I had to show it to my family. So then you really got involved in the business end of it, and you made this profitable. How did you do that?
Well, working in the accounting department, I was able to get my bearings in that department.
Okay.
Then managing my own money, of course.
Right, and learning that
learning all that at a young age.
Yeah.
And then running my own business. I mean, I always had to manage my own business.
Right.
I've worked for other people who I've managed their business.
I've done the same, yeah.
As an interior designer,
teaches you.
As an interior designer, you're working on multi-million-dollar projects, and everything adds up. Every little detail adds up.
Right.
So you're always, that's always in the forefront of your brain.
Right.
And then, I worked as a manager of a gallery on Beach Drive, so I ran that business, and that brought a lot of things to my attention. I was working with Christie's and Sotheby's and Bonhams.
Wow.
And selling art, recruiting artists.
Okay.
Looking for new, going to auction houses, buying art.
Okay.
And I did that for my clients on and off for years who could afford it.
Right.
But this was like a full-time thing. Okay. So I did that for a few years, and it just all worked. It all just kind of flowed together.
But you're on multiple websites with your artwork, and other people are actually managing this.
Yeah, that's the goal. I mean,
how did you get there?
When I was working for that publishing company, the production company
Okay.
that created prints on a national level.
Okay.
I saw that was a possibility. Never thought of it before.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
So that was the goal. That was a 10-year goal I set for myself. That
Okay.
I wanted to do that. There were certain artists I really admired
Okay.
that I saw where they went with it, and that was my goal. Female artists.
Right.
So I set that goal in mind, and I didn't manage to meet it. So I created these images that had a wide appeal, and now I have 4 publishing houses that represent me. I have
Interesting.
galleries all over. I could have more, but shipping prices are very expensive.
Right.
I'm working with a gallery now in Amsterdam, hoping to sell some
Okay.
work through them.
Okay.
But
so your
yeah.
artwork, they got your artwork and they want to transpose it to other items, or
Well, that was me. That was
Okay.
my idea. The print market is one aspect of it. So I have my original paintings I sell to galleries.
Sure.
I have the prints I sell to the manufacturers. They do all the marketing. They print the work.
Okay.
They do all the hard work.
And you just get
I
a portion of that.
I get
sale.
10%. Yeah, it's
Okay.
10%. That's the industry standard is 10%.
Okay.
What you do is you have to provide them with quality images. So I have my work scanned when I
Okay.
finish it.
Right.
Send them the images. Some of them require a minimum of a month, so I'm always working
Okay.
because they want new material.
And I have to
market.
back up a little bit. There's no copyright then. You have
No,
to
I copyright
release it.
everything.
But you give them what, a certain amount that they're able to produce, or
It's open edition.
it's open edition.
Yeah, it's open
But you
edition.
allow certain companies to have that particular piece, and you
Right.
and you have in writing that.
Oh,
they
it's
allow-
it's contracts.
Right.
It's all contracts,
Right.
and you really have
Okay.
to trust because you can easily be taken advantage
Sure.
of. Yeah.
Sure.
And that's happened to me a couple of times, and that's just part of the business
Right.
end of it. I mean,
Right.
I have people copyrighting my work all over the world.
Wow.
Amazon's a huge problem. They let third
Interesting.
party, eBay not so much. If you complain to eBay that somebody's copyrighting work, they'll take it down. But Amazon, they don't really care.
But what you're saying is it's a physical copy. Because a
Physical copy.
knockoff can be with one little thing changed.
These
but
are
actual exact replicas that they're selling as
They'll buy a
posters
print. They'll buy
or-
a print, and they will
Right.
have a photographer scan, and then
Okay.
they will
Okay.
superimpose it on
whatever.
shower curtains, pillows, whatever.
Crazy.
Yeah,
Because I
it's
remember Googling you when I was first trying to do research, and it is everywhere, and I
It's
wasn't
very
sure that was
frustrating.
you. That's not you.
No.
Wow.
It's made in China, Russia. They don't really care
Wow.
about copyright. That's a
Well-
big problem. That's a huge problem for a lot of artists. So copyright it's
Yeah.
still important. You should get your work copyright
Right.
protected in the United States.
And you can with a print, and you can with art. You can't with fashion, but you can with art then. I mean, I remember photographers used to just put the little C on there
Right,
and
that's true.
just put. I still
think
do that. I still do
nowadays,
that.
as a photographer, I think you probably can copyright as an art form.
Okay.
You might look into that with fashion. If you design
know,
a pattern,
You can't.
you can't copyright
You
it.
can't copyright it. You can't.
I
If
didn't
it was
know
made
that.
out of a different material, if it was made out of all plastic, or it was a metal garment, you can patent something that is made out of different materials, whether it's metal,
Right.
plastics,
Right.
rubber, something different. But out of fabric, there's
know that.
Yep, there's no rules. And that was on my
That's too
other
bad.
thing. So the business of art, the business of fashion, it all trickles down. Society influences fashion, art influences fashion. What I wanted to touch on that I forgot about, and that is how when we were talking about Pantones, which that would have been a whole hour in itself, guys.
Right.
Pantone and here and there.
Style Council.
Right,
Yeah, there's
all
kinds
these forecasting systems. There's no forecasting systems anymore, but I will say that certain things are ahead of design. Shoes, the colors, and sometimes artwork were either a season, either 6 months to a year. Color and shoe design and art was sometimes 2 years
Right.
ahead of fashion. We would then pull from that, and
Right.
that's what the colors we would probably use,
Right.
and then we would flourish.
Right.
So there's certain things that are ahead. So art, I always believe, like I always say, everything trickles down, right? When you get to Target, before you get to Target, it's Yves Saint Laurent, it's Chanel, it's all of that, and then it trickles down to, you know, another level, maybe Missy collections, no name designers, whoever, and then it trickles down. When it trickles all the way down and it gets to the masses like this, where it's Amazon or Target or wherever,
it's already a couple years out.
It's already a couple years out, and it's already kind of like watered down, so to speak, watered down.
True.
And
everything does start in fashion.
And everything influences fashion.
Right.
Everything affects fashion. Everything, all roads lead to fashion in the very end. So your art is now on me, right? Now on you and everywhere. And so that's why I wanted to bring you in, because I was so fascinated by your art and your design and just even the way you study and the way you learn and the way you look at the way, art and design is very similar to myself. I did want to give the audience that opportunity to understand how this really works. You know, how does going in and going, I want to be an artist, turn it into this.
Right.
So I wanted you guys to understand that and to learn that, and I hope that this was a good interview for you guys. Please give me a thumbs up if you love this interview. Check out her information. It will be in the description box below. I will give you her website and all other ways to contact her and to see her work. And this three-way shawl vest that I designed, I will put the links to that on the bottom in the description. I have a link showing you a video on how to cut this and actually how to sew it. So if you want the pattern will be available on my website, guys, and you can buy it there. So if you haven't subscribed, subscribe, put the bell notification. I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye. Nicely, you guys show up nicely. Okay. Hi, Susan here. Okay, guess what we have? We have an interview with a famous artist, and that's what's next. Okay.